Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Okay, my mic's on now. Thank you, Kevin. So all of that, hi, hello, I'm sorry. Thank you, Lynn, Kevin, Mab, anybody else. You didn't hear anything. It's okay. I didn't think it was exactly a stellar beginning, so let's just let it go. As a matter of fact, I'm throwing out what I said. I'm not starting like I did. I'm starting someplace else because I've got me a second chance by virtue of not unmuting my damn mic. You know, no matter what I do, when I leave it on, it seems to be the wrong time. And when I forget to turn it on, it's the wrong time. God dang. Okay. So Kamala's coming to town, says she's going to make a major speech on the economy here. I again got an email yesterday inviting me to attend this thing. Kind of. It's all very odd if you've gotten these things. You're invited by email. You are told that the speech will be the location will be told to you later. That you will have to answer a whole bunch of questions before your invitation can definitely be proffered. You will, they give you a time frame. I think the time frame was between 1 and 4 this afternoon that the speech would be. Where it would be, again, is a mystery. Although I've heard since that it's at something called the Economic Club. I didn't know there was such a thing. And so this time I thought, well, I'll say yes, that I would attend just to get to see what the rest of the process is, not really expecting to attend. Because they also make clear that even if they invite you and then you fill out all the crap, that you may not, in fact, get the final invitation. I don't know. So I gave them everything but my height, weight, and I did give them, I think, my social security number, my birth date. I was a little surprised because under gender, there were only two possibilities, male or female. And I thought, well, that's not quite woke. And this is the Harris campaign. I mean, it's not an issue for me. I always happily say I'm a female, as far as I know. But yeah, there was a lot of questions that I can see people finding rather intrusive, but this is because they go through like a major security check on anybody coming in. But it begs the question again of what I was asking the other day is, what's the point of talking to people who are totally in your pocket already? I thought the idea, if it's down to undecideds, is to somehow get to them. These aren't undecided voters being invited to this speech this afternoon. So anyway, I haven't heard back. Maybe I didn't get I don't know. I wouldn't have gone anyway because I don't want to. Although if it's at something like the Economic Club, I don't think I've got that name right either. It would seem that wouldn't be a place where you necessarily have to stand. They might actually have chairs, but I don't want to be standing for hours. Been there, done that. And as I've told you, the last time I went to see a candidate in person at a rally, I ended up being in the company of the Secret Service and Pittsburgh police because I forgot I had a little pot in my purse. So I don't know. Not too into it. So, do you know what I read? I'm avoiding major subjects here. Do you know what I read yesterday about this damn artificial intelligence crap? You know who's using it? Your doctor. I was railing about our healthcare system the other day, about how it's not very patient friendly. And it turns out, I don't know, do any of you, I mean, they've moved us all, and I guess this was the result of the pandemic. We all got moved over to these apps, right? I know I've got one for UPMC and I have one for Allegheny General because I do see doctors at both. And I see that, in fact, Allegheny General, their little thing that you go to is called My Chart, the app, and you can schedule appointments and get test results and ask for appointments and ask doctors questions and stuff like that. The UPMC one is called My UPMC. They sit right next to each other on my iPhone screen. And here's what I found out the other day, which I find frankly unsettling. I don't know if I should, but I do. And that is that a lot of doctors now are using AI to answer the questions that you pose on. I wouldn't mind if they use AI to, like for appointments. But if I'm asking the doctor, hey, I have heart palpitations and blah, 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 and then some AI thing's going to respond back. Anyway, this article says that doctors have been inundated by people using this app, which, by the way, we were pushed to use. And now it says to keep up doctors at more than 150 health systems, many of which are named in the article, and they're big ones. They're, university-related healthcare systems, have begun allowing artificial intelligence to help answer. And they don't tell you it's AI generated. Oh, maybe they do. But it's supposedly the doctor responding. But they interview doctors who said they ain't happy about this because, one, he's a family medicine doctor at the University of North Carolina Health Center. He said he recalled an instance in which a patient had messaged a doctor about whether she needed a hepatitis B vaccine. And AI confidently assured the woman that she had gotten her shots and provided dates for when she had. It was completely false. So this doctor says, I don't think this is a good idea. And then already little studies have been done trying to check out whether this is working out okay. Says a study published in The Lancet found that this AI model made more insidious errors when answering hypothetical patient questions. And many a question that a person has when asking a doctor is hypothetical. So, what happens if the doctors are supposed to review these AI generated answers? But a lot of them, just blah, 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 don't. And the study found that if the doctors don't edit them or look closely at them, it could pose a risk of severe harm about 7% of the time. That's too high a percentage. I'm just saying. God dang it. And then, as if that isn't odd enough, my brother sent me yesterday this thing that said, the subject line was University of Michigan AI on Lynn Cullen. And what followed was this long thing about me, generated by some artificial intelligence at the University of Michigan, what's called a AI chat box. But here's the thing. It contained a lot of stuff that's flat out isn't true. Now, it doesn't matter because it's not like life altering isn't true. But this AI crap is not ready for prime time. I mean, it says that I hosted a talk show on WTAE TV called The Lynn Cullen Show. It's absolutely false. I never had a TV talk show on television at TAE, ever. So where did it get that? It just made it up. It even goes into detail about what I did on that show. I apparently focused on current events, politics, and social issues. It made it up. I do agree that it calls me insightful and engaging, but God, on and on and on and on and on it went. It got my radio career pretty well. And it says here's the funniest line. It said I've adapted to the digital age. Yeah. Every once in a while, she actually remembers to turn the mic on. Anyway. And it says I'm significant. Well, I'm thrilled. So I wrote my brother back and said, "What the hell?" And I said, "Did you just ask it to, about me?" And he said, "Yeah, I just wanted to see what it would say about you." And that's what it spit out. Geez, I don't like this. And we're already totally surrounded by it, and it's in its infancy. So, and like many an infant, it can barely walk, it stumbles around, it does things that we marvel at. And the thing is, it took it probably about 2 seconds to write this long, long biography of my professional career, which was maybe 85, 90% correct. But it's going to be writing stuff for news. It's going to be giving you advice, and you think it's your doctor. I'm just saying, buyer beware, patient beware, just beware. Have I talked recently about how much I loathe Joe Manchin? I don't think so. What a jerk. I bet he thinks of himself as like, I'm highly principled. I don't go with the crowd. I have the courage to maintain my own convictions, and I don't cave to the pressure of a group. So Manchin has refused to endorse Harris. I wonder if that means he's voting for Donald Trump. Manchin also, of course, by refusing to run for re-election, has already given the Republicans one pickup in the Senate. Not that Manchin was a great Democrat in the Senate. He often abandoned ship, but he sure is going to be thought of wistfully as better than this idiot Justice, the former governor, who will now be the senator from West Virginia. No contest, no contest. But a troubling piece that I read, I don't know where I read it, I think in the Bulwark, that the Senate maintaining our razor thin control of the U.S. Senate is looking like a dream. And the article said something that I did not know and scared the bejeebers out of me. It said that Casey in Pennsylvania, that is not assured of victory. It says that the race in Pennsylvania and Ohio with Sherrod Brown, the Democratic incumbent in that red state, are both looking very, very tight. So This tells me that if you haven't given a buck or two to Bob Casey's campaign, now might be a good time to do it or knock on doors for him. It looks like we need to get out there for Casey. Can you imagine McCormick winning? I thought Casey was in the bag. Why? I don't know. Because I like to sleep at night. So I've been giving money to Sherrod Brown next door in Ohio, and I've been giving money to John Tester in Montana, figuring they needed it more. Tester's chances are looking grim, even though he's running against a lying, I mean, a lying, what do they call it? Valor stealing uh, former Marine. Said he got injured in combat when in fact I guess he shot himself hunting. You can't where the Republicans, it says everything you need to know about the Republican Party now to look at the candidates they have. I mean, my God, one more horrific than the other. The the crap that comes out of their mouths. We spoke yesterday about the guy in Ohio running against Sherrod Brown, who said that he didn't understand why women over the age of 50 cared at all about abortion. I mean, what's the point? They can't get pregnant. It's even Nikki Haley, upon hearing that, wrote, "What are you trying to do? Lose the election for Trump?" Well, I certainly hope so. So and I mean that doesn't even start with the guy in the Robinson, whatever the hell his name is, the black Nazi. Oh God, my God, these are their candidates. A lot of them carpetbaggers, billionaire carpetbaggers. That's what we got here in McCormick. In Wisconsin, they got one running against Tammy Baldwin. I saw, by the way, that our governor, Josh Shapiro, was in Wisconsin along with Tammy Baldwin trying to buttress her fight against a billionaire carpetbagger. God. So, just saying. Um, oh, before I get into anything terribly upsetting, let me tell you something I thought sort of funny. I happened to, I'm always looking for something to watch on TV. And the problem now is not that there aren't things to watch, because there's a ton of stuff, on so many different streaming platforms. And like, you just don't know, even when you start watching something, you sometimes can't remember where it is you found it in the first place. I mean, you're inundated with possibilities. Um, and so I'm always sort of like looking around, and I had noted and I took a screenshot so I'd remember, this is like a month or so ago, that there was a comedian who had done a show, I think it was even on Broadway, that critics thought was hysterical and they're raving about it. And so I made a point of watching it just the other day. I think it was 2 days ago. And his name is, I never heard of him before, but that doesn't mean anything since I'm generally kind of out of it. His name was Edelman, Alex Edelman. Like, have you ever heard of him? Now, the reason I was reminded about the screenshot I took about this show he did, which I was supposed to watch because it was so good, was when the Emmys were on just last Sunday, I think. He won an Emmy for the show on HBO Max. And when they announced he won, I mean, the place went nuts. Like everybody loved him. And I thought, oh, well, I guess I really got to watch this. And so I did. And I have to admit, I thought it started pretty slow. I didn't quite get it. But before it was over, I was totally into it. And I thought his last line was just brilliant. I mean, not that you have to go through the whole thing to get this brilliant last line. I mean, just in terms of like wrapping something up that you totally forgot he'd mentioned, you know, 40 minutes earlier. Just brilliant. And he's a most unlikely character. He's this sort of nebbishy Jew who grew up in a very Orthodox Jewish family, where he went to the yeshiva. This is a guy who probably I mean I don't know that seriously Jewish, so that his name, his actual name, he does a bit on it, is so funny because it's not, these Orthodox Jews do not name their kids names that we necessarily hear every day. And don't ask me to come up with some. But okay, here's one, just because it's a Yiddish derivation of Sam. Shlomo. I mean, many kids named Shlomo? No. But that would be Samuel. But so he goes on and on and on, and it's very, very funny. And a lot of his humor is coming from his family. And the whole time he's doing it, I'm thinking, how the hell must his family feel about him doing what he's doing? Because he's obviously fallen away a bit because, yeah, there's no way that he wasn't wearing, the required kind of clothing stuff. There's no fringe going down from, around his pockets. None of that. I don't even think he had a yarmulke on. So I thought, geez, what must his family think? And it's quite clear that they're a very tight family, even now. But he tells a hysterical story of the family celebrating Christmas, an Orthodox Jewish family celebrating Christmas, which brings the principal of the Jewish school the kids go to, the yeshiva, to the home, obviously. It's hysterical. It's hysterical. Anyway, I'm telling you this because I'm reading the Pittsburgh Jewish Chronicle this morning, and I see this. What is it? Where was the headline? I don't have the headline. Damn it. But I see that the little synagogue in Carnegie, right here, there's still, it's amazing, there's still a synagogue there. There's a little synagogue in Carnegie, and we're heading into the high holy days, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And a lot of little synagogues don't really have a full-time rabbi anymore, so they have rabbis who come in, sort of, traveling rabbis. And it's said that the rabbi that's going to be at the Carnegie Synagogue next week is named A.J. Edelman, and that he happens to be a multi-sport Olympic athlete. And it's a rare rabbi. I just want to say this. It's probably a rare minister too, but it's a rare rabbi that is a multi-sport Olympic athlete. But Carnegie, the Jews in Carnegie are going to have an Olympic athlete rabbi for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Totally cool. And it's the brother of the comedian. And the funny thing is a pretty good hunk of his show is making fun of this brother, the Olympic athlete. He makes fun of his athletic prowess because he's an Olympic athlete. Well, as it says here, he is the captain of the bobsled team. Now, wait, no, not for the United States. No, because no way that's happening. He's the captain of Israel's bobsled team. And you can imagine how his brother makes a lot of jokes about Israel having a bobsled team. You know, where do they practice? Winter sports are not exactly a big thing in Israel. So it is not unusual, as you know, for Americans who have ties to other countries to, even if they could get on the American team, decide to, like a lot of the basketball players, playing for teams other than the U.S. team. So it's not unusual that an American will get to the Olympics by being on another country's team. But it turns out that this rabbi who's going to be in Carnegie is, and I guess he's done Carnegie before because he speaks very highly of the congregation. What he does is, his brother makes jokes about what's the skill involved in. Technically, his brother is in skeleton. That's the, I don't know. Is that the one where you race down a chute? And the brother says, what's the skill? It's gravity. You get on a thing, push off, and just hang on for dear life. But it turns out his brother really was a very good athlete because he, in fact, went to MIT and was on the hockey team that won 2 divisional championships. So this is a Jew who's good on ice. And he is a rabbi. Who knew? Just telling you because I thought that was funny. And I think that's all I got on that. But geez, I was thinking maybe I'll go to the Carnegie. But you know what? Here's the thing. You can't just walk into these services anymore. Jewish places of worship are locked down. You gotta have a ticket. You gotta belong. They gotta know you. You're not getting in otherwise. You walk through tons of security. Can you imagine going to church and having to do that? Can you imagine? And so, and I'm sure there's a great deal of trepidation for these high holy days because Jews are now a target. We want to thank Donald Trump for making us a clear target, that coming from the right. We want to thank all those progressive, woke, lefty students and others on the left for making Jews a target. We're targeted every which way you can turn. And I don't know, do other denominations in Pittsburgh have like a director of community security? Do the Catholics here? Does the diocese have that? Do the Presbyterian churches? Do the Baptist churches? I don't know, because the Jews sure as hell do. Her name is Sean Brokos, and she's a busy woman. But they've redoubled their efforts. There's going to be additional police presence, we are told, armed private guards. There are all kinds of things inside the synagogues. A lot of synagogues now, the windows have this bulletproof film over their stained glass windows and other stuff. This is how a Jew in Pittsburgh now gets to worship on our most holy days, with just a tinge of fear. And you can't forget it because of the security you're surrounded by. The little things you see on the walls to like pull to alert police. That's in our sanctuaries. And don't anyone say we're overreacting, right? So our head of security says it's prudent to hope for the best, but plan for the worst, because that's simply what we have to do. They've already coordinated with all the local police departments. I'm sure the Carnegie Police Department have been talked to, all the little communities around here that still have a synagogue. There's Blue Point emergency alert systems throughout these synagogues. The synagogues have been what's called target hardened. But it's an ongoing process. Happy New Year. Hey, speaking of that, next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, I will not be doing a show. I will be at my security hardened synagogue. Okay, now I saw this story yesterday afternoon and then never saw another thing about it, like on the major news. Not that I watched a lot of it, but I was stunned. I got the story out of a Cleveland television station, and it's about the fact that a group called Haitian Bridge Alliance, which is a nonprofit group that works with Haitian immigrants in, I'm not sure if it's just in Springfield or if it's around the country. They have filed criminal charges against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for the chaos and terror they've unleashed on their community. Now, it seems to me that that's a big story, but maybe it's not considered a big story because what? People are thinking, man, that's going to be thrown out. But as I read the complaint, it seems like it's on firm footing. There's an Ohio state statute that allows private citizens to file an affidavit charging offenses such as disrupting public service, which they have done by causing bomb threats and other threats and disruptions to schools and public services. The law allows them to file a complaint for if people are making false alarms, knowingly spreading falsehoods to cause alarm, using telecommunications to spread claims they know to be false. Now, how is that not all, check that, check that, check that? That's what they've done. Another one that they charged, committing aggravated menacing, knowingly causing others to falsely believe that the Haitian community was causing serious harm to others or property of others in Springfield. And so this was filed yesterday in the Clark County, where Springfield sits, municipal court. And the court, they're asking them to issue arrest warrants for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, as they would for anybody else. And that's what one of the people who's behind this said. Vance even flat out said they made it up. I'm creating these stories to bring attention to and blah, 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 right? So anybody else, imagine a regular citizen who had caused the kind of tumult and terror in that city, the grinding to a halt of so many of commerce, of social events, of schools, public events, all this kind of stuff. Why they would be charged? Because as we see, Ohio law flat out has these kinds of actions listed as crimes. And we know who's behind them. Donald Trump announcing it to the country in the debate, J.D. Vance following suit and not backing off any of it, just keeping it coming. Hang on here. The other thing I want, hey, did you see that? You see who P. Diddy is rooming with in jail? Sam Bankman-Fried. It's not just they're in, it says a dormitory style room so it's not just the two of them, but it is the two of them and some other fine characters. I guess this is where high profile folks, and I guess in a New York jail you get a lot of those, but that's where Bankman-Fried is there now, and Diddy's been there now for a week or so. Another story that I literally couldn't read, I kept passing it up the last few days as I saw it, because I thought my heart couldn't take it. I mean, literally, it was so upsetting. And I finally forced myself to read it today, because I told myself, you've got to be able to deal with what our world is, what our country, as it's still here in the United States, the cruelty, the murderous cruelty of our nation. and it has to do with the execution of a black man in Missouri. And as I finally read the story, it was as horrific as I thought. Missouri executed this man, Marcellus Williams, who, until the second they stuck the needle in his arm and killed him, said, "I didn't do it." And guess what? All the evidence points to he didn't do it. Even the prosecutor who initially brought the case against him has been telling the state, we screwed up. He didn't do it. Even the witnesses, the supposed witnesses who testified against him, jailhouse snitches who got essentially paid to say what they said, even though the DNA evidence at the murder scene did not match the man's DNA, who the state of Missouri flat out murdered. A former Republican governor actually stayed this guy was tortured before he was killed because he was up to the door of the execution chamber more than once and got pulled back by a last minute reprieve to look at something or other. So the last governor did create a commission to look into all this new evidence. People are saying he didn't do it. And a new Republican governor comes in Missouri and disbands that commission and says, kill the guy. It's, I, I can hardly tolerate the rage and the sorrow I feel. This went, of course, and his last shot, poor soul. His last shot, just hours before they gave him the lethal shot, was, get this, our wonderful, wonderful, compassionate United States Supreme Court. And what do you think they said? Kill him. Oh, there were 3 dissents. Uh-huh. All 3 Democrat appointed justices, all 3 women. Well, no, the Republican woman voted to kill him. It's incredible. It's just incredible. The NAACP president in Missouri said tonight, this is last night this happened, Missouri lynched another innocent black man. When DNA evidence proves innocence, capital punishment is not justice. I don't know that it ever is. It is murder. Wow. So that's something I find hard to deal with. And then there's one other thing. And I don't know how much attention this is getting. It's about a sheriff in Ohio. He's in the county, I think, pretty near Springfield. Another fine law enforcement officer. I mean, our country is overrun and infiltrated with, in positions of extreme power, cruel, hateful people. And so when anybody in a position of authority gets up and says after some horrific act, this is not who we are, they need to be shouted down. It is exactly who we are. Astonishingly, this sheriff in Ohio, he's the sheriff of Portage County. Unsurprisingly, he's a Republican. His name is Bruce Zukowski. And he actually put out in public on his Facebook page, this is the sheriff of the county, that he was asking residents of the county to write down all the addresses of people who had Harris signs in their yards. Can you imagine? And then he said it was a violation of his free speech rights that people started jumping on him for saying it. Civil rights groups went berserk. He got a letter from the ACLU. And astonishingly, the elections board in the county has told him that he will not, nor will his deputies, be allowed to do what they normally do on an election day, which is provide security at the polls, and that instead a private firm will be hired to take over election security the detail. And of course, the fact that even one of the Republican members of the board did vote that way, another went apeshit and disagreed. So it's all. Here's what he said too. Let me see if I can find it here. He said that the concern was that Harris, if elected, would be bringing immigrants who I believe he called vermin. Now, I wonder where he got that kind of verbiage. Vermin into their pristine county. Yeah, he put also on his Facebook page that the county would see an influx of illegal immigrants if Harris wins. Oh, he described them as locusts. I'm sorry, not vermin, locusts. And he said it was necessary to know who voted for Harris. He went on to say, we'll already have the addresses of who supported their arrival. Oh. So, guys, it's really, I'm sorry, but it's really hard, isn't it, to take in the ugliness of embraced, the ugliness embraced by so many of our neighbors. It's just, I don't. Russ Rice, listening to your monologue about the comedian this morning, I thought I would pass this along. I know that you're not a fan of anything Amazon, but if you haven't already, you should check out The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You'll enjoy it. It's a major hoot. I have. I think I watched the first season, maybe some of the second, and then I have to admit I did weary of it. It was, yeah, good. You know, at the time I was annoyed by the fact that it's about Jews and there wasn't a Jewish actor in the cast. Why is that? I mean, it's like if it's about a black family, wouldn't it be black people in the cast? Tony Shalhoub, who is a graduated from my high school in Green Bay. Hey, Green Bay East. Tony Shalhoub, who's about 5 years behind me, maybe more. I think about five. He plays her father. Now that makes a little more sense because Shalhoub is his family comes from the Middle East. He's a Lebanese Christian. In fact, I've told the story that his grandfather and my grandfather were both peddlers who ended up stopping their wandering peddling ways in the same spot, a tiny little town right next to Green Bay called De Pere. And Shalhoub's family is still in De Pere, where they own a candy shop named Saruji's, which is wonderful stuff. My grandfather finally moved a few more miles into the city and opened up a furniture store eventually. But they both of these Semites came at the same time and both successfully created businesses, and then 2 generations, well, the next generation already successful, and even into the next. I'm calling myself successful. So, but so Shalhoub, and then what's her name, who is Maisel? She's not a Jew. None of them are Jews. What is that about? And I'm not saying that an actor, of course, an actor doesn't have to. And we have this race blind often. But when I had August Wilson on my show, we got into I was not inclined to argue too much with him. He was such a formidable presence, but he was absolutely opposed to letting anybody but a black person direct, stage, be his, because he said that in their bones they know it. And there's something to be said for that. In your bones, You know it. But I'm wishy-washy on the issue, just so you know. All right. Well, I guess that's it for me for today. I thank you very much for joining me. I'm appreciative of your presence. And I bid you a fond farewell. And I promise that tomorrow I'm actually going to try to turn on the mic when I begin my show. Okay? Thank you.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.